Hi, this is Barbara, and I am here today with, I think it's the third part of this series that I have decided to do so that I can spread everything I've learned about stuttering to all of you. So let's see. In case you missed some of the other ones, be sure and go back, and they're on my YouTube channel as well. And the first topic was about whether to accept stuttering as something you will do for the rest of your life, or is there a way to change it aside from trying to be fluent? And I bet you're just as much down on that way as I am, because trying to be fluent, oh, we just know that that doesn't work. Does not work. So I will never say to anybody, I'm a speech therapist, but I will never say to anybody, try to be fluent, or how fluent were you? I only have to put it, sometimes there are scales that I have to do for efficacy studies and stuff like that. So in those cases, I do sometimes say, how fluent were you? But I don't think that that's anything that people have to be looking at. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining in. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask them, okay? So I'll have my assistant tell me if there are questions, because I can't see them on this iPad actually. But what I was saying is that the first of my Facebook Lives in the series was about there's a different way between just saying there's nothing I can do, I'm going to stutter all my life, and this is the way it is, and trying to be fluent. There's definitely another option, and that's the option that I present to you. And I know from my experience working with thousands of people who stutter that it is possible to make changes. Changes that do lead to speaking fluently, but you don't do it by trying to speak fluently. So, last week we talked about the point of attention, and that people pay attention to their speech and put their attention in places that normally fluent speakers do not put their attention. So that is a really important point. But today I am going to talk to you about something that is only touched on in the field of stuttering. Some people do touch on it, but I don't think that the essence of its importance is really understood. And that is the role of language and the way it develops. The way people go about transforming their thoughts into language. And this is something that is so much a part of stuttering. Guys, you just can't imagine how much this is a factor. And it's dynamic and changing. And the way you develop your language is not always the same. The way it's meant to develop is that beautiful word, automatically. Yeah, language comes automatically. And I know that so many of you say, and I've heard it with from so many of my clients, that if I don't think about the words, I might say something silly. Or how can I develop that thought without thinking of the words? Or I gotta be aware because, you know, I have some hard words and I really want to, I want to avoid saying them. So I better know when they're coming. Or just, I'm not going to avoid them. I'm not going to switch words, which is a really, really detrimental thing to do. But I'm going to try really hard, think about that word and try and get it out. So this is something that really affects your ability to speak. Those things are not part of the natural speaking system. And I just saw I had low connectivity. Hope this is coming out all right. I thought about what I wanted to talk about, but I certainly didn't think which words am I going to say. And now, as I'm speaking, I'm not thinking about the words that I'm saying. They come into my head totally automatically, subconsciously, you might say. And this is how it happens. And you know what? Everybody out there who stutters is perfectly capable of developing their language without thinking about the words, and you all do it sometimes, probably when you're just thinking to yourself, maybe silently or maybe aloud. And you just have a thought, and the language just comes. And it was really interesting. In therapy, we were working on this. I was working with one of my clients, a young man and about 19 years old. And I asked him to speak silently to himself. Like, well, it's not my connection that's off now. You're not going to hear me for a second. Okay? So, him just do the same thing and do it a little bit louder. And see if you're doing the same thing in your head. Is it any different? And he did it, and he did it the right way. And he didn't have any difference. And he said, wow, I never had that feeling before. It's like my language came from Jupiter. I don't even know where it came from. And I thought that was really good. So I learn from my clients all the time. But that was his experience, and that's what everybody experiences. And so, you know, when you're trying to do so many things and still you're thinking of the language and still you're thinking about the speech sounds and which words you're going to say, you're going to have trouble. Hi, Linda. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear that I'm coming through. Thanks. Okay, so I know it's hard for people who are used to thinking about their language all the time to give that up. It really is. And the more you're a person who stutters, and there are variations. I mean, everybody who stutters does it a little bit differently. So some people are really locked onto the words, and some people are just trying to pay attention to a few sounds that they're going to be saying coming up, and thinking about how they're going to say them. So, okay, so some people are really into that language. I mean, they just don't plan. The ideas come by picking the words. And yet there are other people who do it much less. The less you do it, the easier it is to learn to go with the flow in your speech. But for those who have a hard time doing it, believe me, there are ways to go about doing it and to learn to do it the right way. And now it says, I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Okay. So, I hope I got unfrozen. Anyway, Okay, good. All right, so language. What is in language? Well, there's lots of things that are in language, and believe me, it's not just the words. It's so much more. Well, we have grammar. When you're speaking, do you think about, I need an adjective to go with the noun, and let's see, I'm going to add ly because this is an adverb, or I'll put this word order. I'm learning French now, so I know that I'm learning that the adjectives of color go after the noun. But even it's getting to be, as I go over and over it again, it just doesn't seem right for me to say blanc shot or whatever. Chat. Is my accent here. So it's chat blanc. So it's just starting to feel right. And so if I'm ever going to become a fluent French speaker, I'm not going to be thinking of that. I'm not going to be thinking of the grammar. I'm not going to be thinking of, do I put an S on it or do I not put an S on it because it's plural. It's just going to be, I know there's many, so I put the S on it. And these things come naturally. And you don't think about your grammar, but it's a big part of language development. And thank goodness, people who stutter really don't think about that. So why think about the words? And anyway, what are words? Well, words are a progression of speech sounds that are called phonemes. Okay? Like b. So, language is a progression of them. So if I say window, it doesn't mean anything, but if I say window, it does mean something. So you see, there's a progression of speech sounds that make up the language, and we don't even think about it. It just comes to us. But what's really important is that there's no time lag. That is, I don't know the words or the sounds before I'm going to say them. As soon as I say them, they're already my language, my speech. And guys, this is so important. And you can change it. This is all changeable. This is things that you've gotten used to, but it's changeable. The brain has plasticity. So you don't have to do these things that you, by the way, don't do them all the time anyway. So you can gradually give up some of the control that you are exerting over your language and start letting your language flow automatically. Flow is such a wonderful word when it comes to speaking. So there is a way to be in the flow, and I am going to be giving more and more of these videos and talking to you more and more about things that are so important for people who stutter to know. And parents, you parents out there, parents of people, kids who stutter, I know you want to help your kids. So understanding what's going on here, understanding what's behind the fluency or the stuttering, this is so important. And you know, we talk about that iceberg and what's behind the iceberg, you know, what's underneath that you don't, the parts you don't see. And we always talk about the emotions, and they are very important. I'm not negating emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, our perspective. They're really important. but they affect something else that's really important, that's underneath what you see in the speech, and that's your attention. The way you're developing your language. It is so important. So let's understand what stuttering is. And I sort of call myself the renegade speech therapist because the things I say are different than a lot of things out there. And some of the time I want to even answer things on Facebook, but I have to go into so much detail to explain where I'm coming from, because I know that some of the advice that I give doesn't have meaning unless you know where I'm coming from. And where I'm coming from is that there is a system. There is a system, a brain system, a neural system that is functioning. And if this system is functioning normally, your speech is going to come out normal. And if this system isn't functioning normally, well, then you're at risk for disfluency, stuttering, effortful speaking, call it whatever you want. So, the more you learn to just let your thoughts flow, let your language develop automatically, the easier it will be. And I see this, I'm telling you, this is proven. I'm saying this, and this is serious. It is really proven, because every one of my clients who follows the directions that I give them and does it this way says that it is a totally different experience. That it's not like learning to speak slowly or doing gentle onsets or monitoring your speech all your life or taking deep breaths. No, it's totally different, and it's freeing. And it's possible, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm with you. I'm with all of you, and I so don't want you to have to struggle. I just saw something on Facebook on one of the groups I'm on, and about somebody who went to a meeting, and it was so hard in the beginning to make an introduction. Yeah, getting ahead in your career, going to meetings, that's hard. It's hard enough. It's hard for all of us. But why have to worry about your words as well? There's a different way, and you can do it. I know you can do it, and that's why I'm here. And I don't want to see people have to struggle needlessly. So, think about it. Think about the way you develop your language when you're speaking to yourself. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask me, and you can even ask for a personal appointment. I do see people one time for a personal appointment to answer the questions that you have, and I would be very happy if you click on the link. I'll post it below, and you can ask for a personal meeting with me so we can see what are you doing yourself specifically, because there are variations. So I'm really happy to be here, and next week I'll be talking, I think the topic for next week, well, look for it. I'm going to be posting it on the Facebook group. So I will post what our next topic is, and I hope that you will also share this with your friends and on lists, because it's really time that we all join together and get out there. Things that people haven't been aware of. And even if they're aware of how much they think of the words when they're speaking, they don't realize how much it's causing stuttering. So, it was great talking to all of you, and I hope to see all of you in the next Facebook Live too. And let's understand this thing called stuttering. Bye for now.